I've had a few requests to do a walk around of the work table I've created here, and specifically the integration with the table saw. So today that's what we're going to do. So this work table has three main functions or areas. The first is a table saw with an outfeed. It's quite a generous outfeed at about 8.5 feet. In the back end is a router table. In the middle is MFT style holes, the general assembly work surface. The first thing I'm going to show you is the integration of the table saw into the bench. What I've done basically is created a platform which brings it up to the level of the outfeed, or it's actually just slightly proud of it, so work slides right off. And then the second thing I've done is create a dust shroud around the table saw. The first thing I do to remove the saw is to disassemble the shroud that's around it. The saw is bolted down with 1/4-20 bolts to this platform. And when I take it off, we're going to see how much dust collects on an average basis. Basically, once you remove the saw, then all the dust from recent cutting is just sort of sitting on this table, and that's literally the best I could do. All I could do was sort of contain all that extra dust. You've got a lot of it coming through the Dewalt exhaust, which works pretty decently, but a lot of it is just spilling out. So really what it came down to is just containment. All I could do was shroud it, take off the saw, and then clean it up afterwards. This is actually a good time to clean the underside of the table saw, and this can get a lot of dust in it. Okay, so in case you're wondering who's talking in the background, that's my 3 children. Okay, so now that we're sort of under the hood or whatever, you can see the basic setup. It's a platform made out of melamine, and it's enclosed on all 4 sides. I've got a flexible dust hose which connects to the saw. And why does it have to be a flexible dust hose? Because it has to sort of swing with the angle adjustment of the blade, and that's worked out well. So what I've done is I've cleaned it up here, and I'm going to show you just some of the details that allow the saw to function within this platform, because it was actually kind of tricky. First of all, I had to cut away a notch here to allow the rack and pinion fence thing to come out, and I had to cut away a notch here and even dado into the melamine top to allow the rack and pinion fence to come this way. I just basically have a drawer underneath the table saw, and I really only store 2 things in it now. One is a stack of blades with a 5/8 dowel, and all the blades that I use, which aren't that many. A fine blade, a flat tooth blade for splines and stuff like that, and a blade for cutting melamine. And then these gripper style push blocks that I made. So one of the main functional aspects of this is the platform has to be level with the rest of the outfeed table, or sort of coplanar with it. I'm using sort of a longer miter track to run longer sleds, because these tracks are just terrible in the saw. So I want all those elements to be coplanar as well and line up with each other. For this to line up the best I can with the blade, so it registers really nicely. Another big thing is the Dewalt's rack and pinion fence system. So what I was saying before, I had to create a groove, sort of shallow groove underneath and a groove here for it to roll all the way back and forth freely, and that took some doing. So it's a little bit of surgery on the bench to get it to this point, but I'm pretty happy with it. And the main thing is that it really allows me to work uninterrupted and sort of leave all the dust and all this other stuff to the background, only when I have time to clean it up. Okay, so that's it. That's the integration of the table saw into the bench. Now, as far as benches go in the workbench world, this is very, very humble build. The materials are basically just this very skeletal structure of 2x4s, and you know, just enough 2x4s to get the job done. The top of the table is black melamine. Melamine is a great material because it's very slippery. It cleans up very well. You can drop glue on it all day and it'll never stick to it. It's a little bit brittle at the edges when you cut it away, like say in these holes, for instance, but it can take an enormous amount of impact on its main surface. It's just a really interesting material, and it looks great too. It provides a lot of contrast when I'm working on like lighter pieces of wood. You can see it very easily, and you know, it's worked out well. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.